Tom Peters brak 25 jaar geleden door met het zakenboek der zakenboeken In Search of Excellence. Inmiddels is hij 64, maar hij zit nog steeds barstensvol met energie. Hij is kwaad op grote bedrijven die de individuele creativiteit van werknemers frustreren. Hij denkt dat de 21ste eeuw vooral de eeuw van de vrouw wordt. En hij gelooft dat business vooral cool moet zijn. Hier in Breukelen spraken we met Tom Peters op de Nyenrode Business Universiteit. Mr. Peters, first of all, thank you very much for giving us some time to talk to you. I read your most recent book. I listened to your seminar all day today. You're 64 years old, like you say yourself all the time. You're wildly successful, and yet you're angry. What are you so angry about?
Well, and I think of the way that enterprises could be. I think of the degree to which people could find these many, many hours they spend at work really fulfilling. As you know, and as you and I have talked about, I am desperately in love with the word excellence. And it's such an extraordinary aspiration to me. And at some level, I'm irritated that, even though I've had all this academic training, nothing I'm saying is like wild, crazy, way out academic requiring quadratic equations or whatever. It's, I start off with a little thing about the guy who runs Starbucks, which is now enormous, visiting 25 stores a week, come hell and high water. And it's so obvious to me that one should do that within the context of whatever one is doing. And I just don't get it when that stuff is absent. And the answer is, you got it right on. It just makes me mad as hell.
But it happens all the
Absolutely.
time. All big companies, what they have in common is they become bigger, they become organizations, there's rules, regulations, everybody follows these rules and regulations. And they don't do their own, as you describe it, cool stuff anymore.
Well, part of the issue, which really interests me, and I didn't talk about as much today as I would have liked to have, and I'm sure you're guilty, I'm guilty, the people do what I do, the media is bad, all we do is report on the giant companies. And, the man from the moon or the woman from the moon who, went through the tapes would say, oh my God, we got Philips and we got 3 or 4 other companies and that's the Netherlands. Well, the reality is the really exciting institutions, and I discovered this years ago when I did some work on the German Mittelstand companies, are the middle-sized companies, the small companies where people do put heart and soul. And, they are the lifeblood of the Netherlands. They are the lifeblood of the United States. I was in Istanbul a while back. The traffic is awful. And, we were talking about big companies and so on. And I said, whoa. I went really slowly today down a couple of miles of Main Street. What's exciting is the stuff I don't see. All those 2-person offices doing accounting or doing some kind of trading or what have you. And we just don't pay attention to the relatively small or very small businesses that are really the basis of the economy. And I don't know why. I mean, I do know why. It's, they're hard to find.
The big companies are sexy and they exude power, and then you want to talk to the big leaders.
You want to talk to the big
people.
Instance. Yeah, okay. No, exactly. It's kind of like, one of my friends is a young actor, and he said to me, why don't you get over this Broadway thing? He said, the really exciting stuff going on in theater in New York is not even off-Broadway, it's off-Broadway. But, you read the reviews, and the reviews tell you to go see this Tony nominee or whatever else it is.
But it's not really a problem, in a way, because as you said, with relish, also a couple of times today, big companies will disappear. Because, what did you say? Size kills. Big companies, in the end, they run themselves out.
Yeah, and if they don't run themselves out, they become irrelevant lumps. I use the example today of the companies that I think have historically been the real leaders, and they are the ones who for 5 years or 10 years or whatever it was, not very long runs on Broadway, really define an industry or really define at some level, the nation. And maybe they survive, but they survive as holding tanks for large numbers of people. The other thing I must add, and I just don't see cultural differences on this, I can't conceive of working in a place like that. My father went in the same door of the same office for 41 years in a row. That's living death. You know, we have this cartoon strip called Dilbert in the United States about kind of middle managers, and he coined this awful term, cubicle slave. And unfortunately, it's frighteningly close to reality.
Cubicle slaves, whereas we could be so much more. In one of your latest books, Reimagine, you say, I want business to be cool again.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, those are two things
you
normally don't equate.
I'm a spoiled brat because I spent 30 years, the center 30 years of my life in Silicon Valley. And I watched these young, long-haired geeks with Steve Jobs take on IBM. I watched these crazy guys like Larry Ellison of Oracle or Scott McNealy of Sun Microsystems or 23-year-old Mark Andreessen who invented Netscape, which was the first real browser. And I just got it through my head that there's no reason that with energy and excitement about doing something differently that you can't take on and prevail against the mightiest of the monsters.
Do you think you're getting your message across? Do you see examples of, I mean, we know the Silicon Valley examples, for instance, but of people changing their attitudes, changing the way they work, not wanting to be cubicle slaves anymore? Do you see that happening?
Well, two things. The most heartening thing may be not that, this is a long haul, but the people who are starting an institution, who pick it up and therefore create a role model. I used the example today of a bank in New Jersey that's become an East Coast U.S. $36 or $40 billion bank, and their hours of being open are 7 in the morning till 8 at night and midnight on Friday when a lot of people get paid, and they give out dog biscuits and balloons, and 8,000 people went to Radio City Music Hall to celebrate. I think it's companies that are relatively new that really buy the whole act that then become a bellwether. I don't think I'm going to change anything, but I think Commerce Bank is, sending a pretty significant message, even in New York City, to the world of retail banking. So I'm modestly optimistic. I have great empathy. I think you'd be a fool if you didn't. For the Dutch or German or British or French or American 48-year-old whose job is outsourced to India, because alas, most of us, European or American, there's no difference between North America and Europe, in my opinion, on this dimension, are not ready at 47 or 48. We've been so dependent. The real welfare state is not what the government does, it's that dependence on the employer come, in some cases, we think, hell and high water. But the lovely, and I don't know if this is American, but I'm so excited by it. With the Silicon Valley phenomenon and so on, I don't think one in 10 30-year-olds in the United States believes that they're going to have a pension from a company they work for forever. And so, it sounds pretty cruel or crude, but I love the notion of self-reliance. I mean, yes, we need the government to help us. We need pensions that don't get stuck with a company. We need training credits. We need, as you all do so much better with in Europe than we do, the healthcare thing. But fundamentally, if we're going to compete with the Asian giants, we need to be agile. We need to have people going from place to place as the labor market and their own passions take them. And I think it can be it'd be a glorious picture.
And people do, I mean, like you said, the under 30s, they understand this.
Yeah.
They know this, they understand, they even like it, they don't dislike it anyway. Not only for the people, also for the products. One of the things you talk a lot about in your last book is design. And it's not just, it's not just making a product a little prettier.
Yeah.
It is the soul. It is the heart of the matter.
Well, I said, sucking up to the locals today, that I love this Philips Simplicity campaign, and I look at it when I go through the airports and so on, and it really is. It's a big step. I don't know the history of it. I frankly don't even know how well it's received. But to me, you just watch them coming up with one after another things, and I lived around Steve Jobs and Apple, and I watched the whole world of consumer electronics, being turned upside down. Starbucks, a new retail format, and it's as much true as this excitement and design and what we call experience marketing applies to service as well as manufacturing. And again, as you said, it's this vital, energetic,